It's just the capitalization of whole communities.
So I need to pause it. What draft are we looking at? We're looking at 1.1. And,
You should have 2.1.
okay, because that's okay. I was gonna say 1.1. Because mine was not capitalized, so
I said that last week.
did I
Um,
not send it to?
No, he sent it, I just picked up his phone.
That's okay. Do you want to, should we take, let's take maybe a minute break or so and we'll
Let me
get.
find it.
okay.
Okay. I should have. When you were talking about like the timestamp, I was like, not checking.
That's. So,
If you've got it digitally, then we can also,
Yeah, I'm trying to find it. You send it to me again and
yes, make sure that I've got the right copy. This is. Did you send it on Thursday?
I'm trying to find it right now.
I'm so sorry.
No, I think it's.
I don't see it in the sent file.
Oh, well, do this, we're taking a break. Okay, this is Natural Resources and Energy coming back from a break and we're looking at draft 2.1 of 778. Back to, yeah, back to legislative council.
You're what?
I believe so. Yes.
This is Michael Grady with Ledge Council. We have 2.1 with 417.8 and 1048 timestamp. You reviewed most of the changes that were recommended by Eric Moran, the Director of Emergency Management last week. You did ask for a couple of tweaks to that language, the first of which is on page 2. In the draft, 2 drafts ago, there was a reference to a list of people that the division would coordinate with. The director asked that it be changed to reference a whole community, which is a concept used in FEMA emergency preparedness planning. And at your last walk through the draft, there was a request that that whole community term be capitalized so that it is referring to its kind of term of art, the definition on page 2, line 8, 17 and 18. So you made that change, you capitalized whole community where it's used in the bill. The next change is on page 15, line 4 in what is required for each EOP. It had previously said engage facilities that house vulnerable populations, and there's a question, how does someone engage a facility? So it was changed to engage managers and administrators of facility. Also on page 3, line 16, the term whole community was capitalized.
Yeah.
And then moving on. That's really it. There was really nothing else that was changed.
Okay. Great. And we had changed previously all of the EOPs for dams to EOPs for municipalities downstream.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay,
Do you already ready for a motion?
I believe so, yes.
I move that we approve draft 2.1 of page 778.
Great. Is everybody feeling ready to vote? Okay, go ahead, clerk.
Okay, Snre got, yes, Snre Member, yes. Snre Hardy,
Yes.
Snre Williams. Yes. Snre Watson.
Yes.
0-0. Who's to the board?
I just can do it.
Yeah, I mean.
Senator Williams,
There you go.
oh my God,
One Sam Williams?
amazing, thank you, delightful.
Remember to bring the bill up to Melissa.
All right.
Fabulous,
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
It will be going to approach because of the appropriations, so.
Okay, very good. Okay, we're gonna move right along to 9:15, for which we also have a.
Another migratory special.
Yeah, and this is draft 2.2 for 9.
2.2, 4/20/2026,
Great.
115 timestamp. You are going to see in this draft that there is gray highlighting and yellow highlighting.
Thank you.
The yellow highlighting are the changes from the A&R proposed changes from April 17th, last week. The gray changes are the changes that A&R has proposed since then. Originally, they were sent over in green, which looked really good when you look at it online. But when you print out the green, you can't see the text.
Oh, okay.
So that's why it got changed to gray.
Gray. Okay,
So just so if anyone's listening, why I changed it.
Wait, can you say the yellow is what?
The yellow is language changes you've already seen. They were
Okay.
A&R proposals last week. But you still had questions and discussions about them, and I don't believe you agreed to everything
Mhm.
that was proposed. And then there were questions such as fair compensation that came up last week, and then A&R proposed some additional language, and that is what it in there.
Got it, okay.
So I will just start walking through. Do you want me to walk through the whole bill or just the changes or?
well, I think it would be useful to go through anything that is gray or yellow.
Okay. So on page 2. There was a definition of dealer added. Dealer is actually used in the underlying bottle bill and has been for years, but there's never been a definition of it. And so a definition is being added, any person, including any operator of a vending machine or retailer who engages in the sale of beverages and beverage containers to consumers in the state. You can see that term used in the definition of distributor on page 2, line 12. So see, it's not underlined, it's been there for a long time. And again, on page 2, line 13, but now that you have incorporated the term retailer and the term dealer, you don't need retailer there on page 13 as well. So dealer is now any person operating or engaging in the sale of beverages and beverage containers to consumers in the state. It incorporates or subsumes the term retailer. Do you have the definition of deposit initiator on line 7? This is not a new definition, it's just being moved here, and then its use will be new in referring to those persons that are subject to the redemption requirements. Right. And so the deposit initiator is the first distributor or manufacturer to collect a deposit on a beverage container sold to any person within the state. No person initiates the deposit. The first distributor in the state shall be the deposit initiator. Deposit initiator is currently used for the unclaimed deposits and return of them to the state. It's now going to be a more commonly used term, effectively replacing the term distributor or manufacturer. On page 2, lines 16 through 19, this is the definition of fair compensation that's being added. Remember, under the plan that the PRO has with the points of redemption, there's going to be a fair compensation agreement. And this is what fair compensation means. It's compensation from the PRO to the point of collection in the amount that covers the point of collection, reasonable cost of operating redemption services, and a reasonable rate of return.
Can I?
Yes, go ahead.
Reasonable rate of return, is that?
Well, I think it's reasonable cost and reasonable rate of return.
Yep.
Provide some discretion to both the PRO and A&R, because remember, A&R has to approve the fair compensation agreements. And I do think that this is a concept that likely needs to be addressed in some way, because do you want the PRO to pay for a redemption center who is incurring unreasonable costs, or is incurring unnecessary costs, or is in,
Yeah.
and is that really something that the PRO should be paying for as part of fair compensation? How to address that narratively in language? It has to be reasonable.
Yeah, no, I think the reasonable costs is good to include, but rate of return, I'm just trying to think that through. Does that mean profit? Does that mean, you know, especially when we're talking about returning things, so I'm trying to like make sure that that means like you get
I don't think it necessarily means profit, because
Yeah.
if they're not paying for the unreasonable cost. The redemption center may not make a profit.
Yeah,
Um. So it's about having a reasonable rate of payment. On what they redeem, the services they provide, it doesn't necessarily guarantee profit.
yeah,
Who says no?
the PRO will set it in the agreement with the vendor, with the redemption center.
Then it gets reviewed by A&R,
Yeah,
to
And-
make sure that it's fair compensation.
And there's a dispute resolution provision that's added as well. So if there is dispute between the PRO and the point of collection, point of redemption. There is a opportunity for a third party to review that dispute.
I was a little confused by what you had said about it, that it doesn't guarantee profit. Can you, because I had also been hearing this as like. There's going to be some reasonable profit, but that's on just this portion of whatever the operation is. But can you either say that again or?
Sure, I just think that you can't necessarily guarantee profit because you can't predict what their costs are going to be. And so if their costs are unreasonable and are excessive in relation to what they get as their rate of return, they may not make a profit.
Oh, I see what you're saying, so. If what they're being paid. Shrinks
Right.
their cost to what would be reasonable and. There's something on top of that, because maybe they were spending more, it might not all flesh out for them.
Maybe they took a lease on a building that's way too big for what they need.
Mhm,
And so they're paying much more per square foot in space
mhm,
than is necessary or reasonable for what they're providing in services.
mhm.
Does the PRO have to pay for that excessive space that's leased?
I see,
Or do they pay for what is necessary for the services that are provided? And I think that's part of what that conversation will have to be.
Mhm. Let's figure out what is an appropriate cost level.
Right.
Good idea.
yeah, I mean, I'm just, we heard the story about the one redemption center that's already gotten the sorting mechanism thing. Yeah, and he said that it didn't really reduce his labor costs, and so. But all the testimony we've gotten from the sort of industry is like, oh, these machines reduce labor costs, so. I'm wondering how that would be considered.
I mean. I think that's part of the conversation. There will be. If you're the PRO or. And you know that the state has just provided a grant to a point of redemption center. To provide a certain type of. Kind of either. Bag drop or electronic reverse vending that's always available, that doesn't require. Doesn't require employees to attend it. I do think. You will discuss whether or not you have to pay labor for that or for what costs. And now the redemption center, I could see saying, I still need someone there. To have, to ensure my redemption center is. Operated appropriately, that it's not misused, that if something breaks down, that it's fixed.
Yeah,
So yes, I still have labor. And I still might need labor to do some sorting because maybe the machines don't do it all, like maybe it'll reject certain containers and then I have to sort those. So I think. I don't know how you address that right
Yeah.
now.
It's through the negotiation process.
So I did have a suggestion that came, like from Mr. Rice about, the. Instead of reasonable costs of operation or of operating. Redemption service, it was appropriately allocated costs. Recognizing that there might be some shared staff. And so if you have one person who's both tending the redemption side of things, but then also is in front of house, as we heard, that they're not also paying for them to be part of the front of house, but just the portion that is for the redemption operation, which made sense. That it's gotta be, you're paying for the cost of the redemption, as opposed to like.
I think so, I believe can definitely correct me if I'm wrong, but it seems like the term reasonable has a legal. There's like a reasonable limit. but
There's
no
the reasonable
standard.
person's
Yeah,
standard, but I don't know if it's a one-to-one translation for what you're looking at.
yeah,
You will. I think whether it's appropriately allocated or reasonable cost of operation, I do think there is some ambiguity as
Yeah.
what will be calculated under either term.
Mr. Chapman.
Sure. For the record, Matt Chapman, Director of the Waste Management Prevention Division. I think whether it's Chris's language or the language that the agency proposed, both of us are intending to accomplish the same thing, which is that we're paying for the cost of basically sorting bottles and cans, not running a retail store at the front of the house. There's like a lot of mixed services that take place, and that there would be a need for the redemption center to separate the costs and present them as a part of whatever conversation they're having if they're not comfortable with the negotiation.
Okay. I feel open to either path for the costs. I'm sure folks have opinions about that.
reasonable and appropriately.
We could, yeah, we could. Well, and I guess I'm not feeling like the need to change the reasonable rate of return unless folks have objections, because what I'm hearing is that while it may not strictly speaking be a profit, it is some amount above what the costs are. Yeah, above the reasonable costs.
Yeah.
Yes. Sorry, thank you. It's above, some amount above the reasonable, or I guess, the appropriately allocated. Yes.
You know, I think about this as if I were a owner of one of these, I'd be worried about because this gets negotiated. Oh, I'd be learning at making investments. Yeah, because you never know the road could be pulled out from you, under you. And I know that everything is gonna sort of tend to notate whoever redemption centers of operation, but you know, I wish there was a way to just get X or very hard, and my people make the decision whether they can operate a well or not. I understand that's more complicated than it sounds. I mean, it's the way this is gonna work, but there's something. I'm not sure I'd make a big investment. Right. I know the government's determining what my rate of return is, no way I'm getting into that business. Yeah. Not a chance. Or standards. So, Matt, is there some way when we have people in here also sort of suggesting the same thing and looking at the floor or some things, or?
So I think the challenge with a floor or some sort of definitive number is that you're not looking at the same. You're looking at very different redemption centers with very different operations that are going to be taking place that are going to require different compensation models under something like this. And I mean, I think basically if we were to do something like a floor, the whole system doesn't work. Probably from either side of the porch.
Maybe having the system kind of operate like that's for,
It,
they all get the same amount of money.
well, I guess I would say yes,
Yeah.
and it's operated fairly poorly for a long period of time.
In a lot of
Places
places,
trying to change it.
Right.
and that's why places have closed, and so,
And why is it operated poorly?
well, because it's not enough.
It's not enough,
It's not
right?
enough.
The numbers.
Well, but if we wanna give them more, and then it gets, let's say vetoed, or let's, suppose it. Doesn't work for the beverage industry, this is like, we're trying to thread a needle here. So, but I hear you about like, the interest in, like if we could have a set amount. That would be helpful, but they're so varied in size that there's not one amount that would be sufficient.
Is there something we could add about ensuring that that the compensation level is sufficient to ensure that enough redemption centers stay in business to meet the goals of the bill? Because, I mean, maybe that's indirectly implied, but we could make it more explicit, because if they're negotiating a rate of fair compensation, and a bunch of redemption centers are like, well, that's maybe what you are willing to give, but that's not enough for me to stay in business. I don't know, is there a connection to it, Michael?
Well, in part, yes, on page 19, you'll see as part of the plan. The plan has to include fair operations and compensation to redemption centers. And it has to satisfy certain requirements. It describes how all locations are fairly compensated for their participation. There can't be barriers to participation except for restrictions authorized by A&R. They describe how the management and sorting at redemption centers is minimized, i.e. how the costs are minimized. And we'll describe how materials will be picked up from redemption centers on a timely basis, again, cost. And then the plan shall maximize the use of existing infrastructure, so maximize it, doesn't mandate it. And it's consistent with guidelines from A&R, shall use binding dispute resolution to resolve any disputes, and then after the plan is effective for 2.5 years, the PRO submits a report on fair compensation describing how the PRO has adjusted compensation for points of redemption, or document why such an adjustment is not necessary.
So,
Remember, it starts in 2029, right? They're gonna need the agreement with the compensation with the redemption centers prior to that. They should need to be operating under a plan prior to that. But then everything goes into effect in 2029.
so I wonder if there's, and I'm just thinking out loud through this, right? Like, cause if we go down this path and the contracts are negotiated before 29, that there should be, I guess I'm wondering about that interim time between when the contracts are negotiated and when it all takes effect, to see if there is a gap in time, if any of the redemption centers raise their hand to say, this didn't go well, this didn't work out for me, and we're gonna have to close as a result. Do you know what I mean? Like, what is the kind of a backstop in case it doesn't go well?
Well, in the interim, they're still getting the current model, the handling fee per container, depending on whether it's commingled or not. If there is an issue with the negotiation of their fair compensation, they can go to dispute resolution. And as part of the plan and approval, A&R has to approve the fair compensation structure. Now, when A&R does that, that's gonna be a question for them. In my opinion, like, do they? Because the plan goes into effect 29th, but A&R has 90 days to review or deny. If they deny, then the PRO has 60 days to resubmit their plan. So when and how A&R might dispute the fair compensation agreements, I can't really say right now.
Well, so on that, so when does can you remind me when the plan is submitted?
The plan. So they applied to be a PRO January 1, 2027. And. On or before April 1, 2028, they submit a plan to the secretary. And then. On or before, well, on. March 1, 2029, the PRO implements the approved plan.
I'm gonna wonder out loud here, for a minute. If the plan is submitted in 2028 and then. And do we think that that's the fastest? Because right, they're applying, applying to be part of the Bureau January 27. 28, they submit the plan. Here, what I'm thinking about is, when does the fair compensation plan get assigned during that plan? And like, let's say that takes 6 months to figure out, so if that's April 28, then that's like October of 28, by the time we have a fair compensation. And so I assume the soonest that the negotiations would start would be October of 28. Yeah. Because that's what a fair compensation would be established. I'm making this up a little bit, but.
Sure. So I guess I would just say that I think that the stewardship organization is going to have to provide us the methodology or approach that they're planning to take with respect to fair compensation. I'm assuming, and I think it's right for me to assume in this case, that there will be a lot of conversations with both the agency and various interested persons within this before we ever see the plan. So that it's not going to be something that's either a surprise to us or undiscussed within the community. I think to the extent that there are retention centers who are facing a present need, that those conversations inevitably are going to occur between the PRO and the retention center. And this is the thing I think somehow maybe like the PRO needs these retention centers just as bad, if not worse, than the retention centers need the PRO, right? Like without those retention centers, they don't have the necessary collection points to collect these materials. So they have an interest under this to keep those retention centers going in the process. So there is actually there's a mutuality here that hasn't really been discussed a lot amongst the committee, but I do think that the PRO has an interest in keeping these retention centers up and functioning and working.
Well, here's my thought with this, train here is that if the whole thing is supposed to be implemented March 1st, that's in the middle of the legislative session. I'm wondering if we could push that out to July 1st of 29. So that as a stopgap, if in that 29 legislative session, we're like, this has not gone according to like how we all had hoped or whatever. I mean, I have faith that it will. But if it didn't, there's that legislative session to pull some kind of emergency brake. Or actually put an extension in, to say, turns out arbitration is gonna take a little bit more time and we need an extension. I'm trying to think of like, how do we navigate the concerns that you all are raising. Does this make sense?
Yeah, I'm trying to figure out the path forward.
Yes.
So,
And the redemption centers don't have a representative on the, but they didn't have a. Committee was involved in this, not necessarily a committee, but. They'll have some representation as far as what's reasonable for them.
Well, I don't know that we put them on.
Well, there's a stakeholder process that has to be
Yeah.
engaged in the development of the plan. It doesn't specifically say there's a member on in from it's just that they have to be involved in that stakeholder process. Now, each, I think, will the PRO negotiate individually with redemption centers, or will they negotiate with an association? I don't know the answer to that. That's a question for the PRO. I think they're probably gonna have to extend both. So I do think there will be individual involvement by redemption centers. But they also have the opportunity as an association.
Because they do have a representative. And I don't know if they all use it or not.
They do prove
I
that
think he was on the committee last week.
those were individual redemption center owners, but I don't know if they have, is there an organization that they're all part of?
I don't believe there is one right now, but
Maybe they'll create one. I don't know about pushing it off because it feels like we want to get.
Yeah. Yeah.
But
well, I mean, 3 months, 3 months costs and 3 months goes.
it's true.
Yeah. But it would just complete that.
It'd be 4 months.
section. Yeah, yeah. True. Fair.
Yeah. I mean, if that helps, then I think that,
That's my wondering is, does that,
it's an opportunity.
yeah,
No, it does, it does.
yeah,
Help. Yeah, I'm just trying to get my arms around them. That's what actually lay out and do stuff one set. This is the one that redemption centers get started.
agreed.
They're pretty cool right now.
Yeah,
Well, okay. I mean. So Matt, tell me again why it wouldn't work just have a fixed amount? The redemption center, they get, they have different costs, but they have different costs now. And they're making a decision to do it based on that, if we just raise the amount.
So I think there's a couple reasons. One is that, yeah, especially with the deployment of additional technology, like if you're going to give an incentive, you're telling the PRO that they're the ones who are responsible functionally for investing in and deploying new technology. If you're basically saying there's no benefit in what you pay the people who are your agents out in the field collecting, then there's no incentive for them to actually do anything with respect to the technology, right? They might as well just pay and let people sort containers at a facility, not really making an improvement in the system. That's really the largest reason why. I mean, I think then you look at sort of across the landscape. When we actually see some of that technology, I mean, should the less than optimal single sort RVM that's down at Shaw's, which everyone likes to point out as the example, get 3.5 cents per container because they get the same rate as, the redemption centers do. So it starts getting into, you can't, even though the law treats everyone similarly, people aren't in fact similar in this instance.
and you did have some information about other states who've revamped their bottle bills. Do any of them use it for a handling fee kind of system or?
Well, so I think it's important for me to say that if you look at one state's bottle bill, you've looked at one
Okay.
state's bottle bill,
Fair.
right? I mean, they're all different. They all have different elements to them. I think it's generally fair to say that most of the more modern bottle bills are trending away from a per container. That's not universal, right? But you know, and you look at states that we generally define as being high performing, like Oregon, like the Canadian provinces, and they generally speaking don't use a nibbling fee. And again, there's lots of different elements. So I don't, you know, you can.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Well, let's go forward.
Okay,
Yeah.
well, actually, we are running out of time for this particular part of our agenda. And there's a lot to get through, so let's just let's see, where are we at? So we're at
You're on page 2.
2. Together. 2:40. Perhaps we could get through the definitions.
Okay.
And then we'll just schedule you again. But one of the reasons that I wanted to have this on the agenda today was because I wanted to get this out here, and I know that other people will be looking at this, and so I wanted to give people time to react to what's in here. So we'll see this again on the agenda later, but yeah. Okay, yeah, let's finish the definitions and then we'll move on.
So page 3, line 1, mixed wine drink, that's an existing definition, it's just being reordered, re-alphabetized. To be in order, in alphabetical order, so I'm not gonna go through that. Point of redemption is a new definition, it's a location included in the PRO's plan that redeems beverage containers under the chapter. A point of redemption includes manually sorting containers, mechanically sorting containers, and bag drops. And then a point of redemption with immediate return means a point of redemption that immediately provides a person with a deposit when a beverage container is presented for redemption. Moving on from there, on page 4, redemption rate. This is effectively the number of beverage containers that are redeemed for deposit divided by the number of beverage containers sold. It does not include in the calculation any unredeemed beverage containers collected or processed by a municipal or other recycling program. This is the redemption rate, not the collection rate. So what is collected but not redeemed is not part of the calculation.
So like if someone were to just straight recycle a
Right.
bottle, that's
Take-
collected.
Takes or seltzer right out to the blue bin, that's collected, but it's not redeemed.
And this is when the denominator here, the number of beverage containers sold, like in total in the state. Is that right?
Yeah. And you will
Not-
see in the PRO plan, there's provisions for confidentiality. Because it may be a confidential secret, trade secret, it may not have been confidential business information. Generally, the plans make some accounting for that.
Mhm.
And then page 4, retailer, remember we talked about how retailer is the terms included in what's a distributor, but it's now being moved up to what's a dealer. A retailer is a store or other licensed entity, including vending machines or containers that are sold at retail for off-premise consumption. And those are the new ones, the definition of secretary is reordered, the definition of liquor is reordered.
Okay. Thank you. So we'll continue to walk through this later in the week. Thank you so much. To be continued. How are we doing? I'm wondering if we can take a break before we move on to the next topic. Okay? Okay, great. Okay, so we are moving to H 740. About the greenhouse gas inventory and registry, and we're joined remotely by a couple of folks, so we're gonna just go in the order that it's on the agenda. So first, we've got Ms. Janda from the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission. Welcome.
Thank you. Good morning, senators. I am suffering from a head cold, so I'll do the best I can this morning.
Super.
I would like to give you a little bit of background on me relative to the topic, if that's all right.
Yeah.
So again, my name is Ann Janda. I have been a senior energy project manager at the Chittenden County Regional Planning Commission since 2021. I help with energy and climate planning and implementation. And all RPCs in Vermont develop regional enhanced energy plans and assist with and approve municipal enhanced energy plans. We've done this in alignment with the Public Service Department's comprehensive energy plan and its enhanced energy planning standards since 2017, about a decade. This is per 24 VSA 4352, which stresses that these plans must be in alignment with the state's greenhouse gas reductions goals. In 2022, CCRPC was hired by the city of South Burlington to help develop a climate action plan. I worked with longtime CCRPC energy planner Melanie Needle to develop this plan. The plan included an emissions inventory, which was possible using accurate data because South Burlington buildings are almost exclusively heated with utility gas provided by Vermont Gas Systems, VGS, and VGS shared that data with us. To develop the inventory and determine high impact actions, we used ClearPath by ICLEI, which is an emissions management platform that utilizes global emissions accounting protocols. This tool is used widely by cities and regions in the US and internationally, and they're going to be, and they may have already expanded to states as well. In order to effectively track transportation emissions going forward, CCRPC requested that the UVM Transportation Research Center develop the Transportation Sustainability Tracking Tool, and we paid for that work for Chittenden County. This tool utilizes Department of Motor Vehicle data to track vehicle miles traveled in Chittenden County. In 2025, CCRPC was hired again by the city of South Burlington to provide an updated emissions inventory so they could see their progress since the base year. And the VGS data and the data from the Transportation Sustainability Tracking Tool were invaluable in providing the most accurate building and transportation emissions data that then the ClearPath tool, calculated for us to do the inventory. So that's the background I wanted to share. We as RPCs, we have been putting together these enhanced energy plans, which include heating information, the source of heating. And if a municipality is outside of VGS territory, we just have to guess. We've used the American Community Survey to get sort of national trend information. But we have found in putting together South Burlington's plan that national trends can be very different than actual data. With the transportation data that we put into the ClearPath system, it was quite a difference between the fairly accurate information we were able to use from the transportation sustainability tracking tool and ClearPath's spreadsheet that helps you calculate your emissions based on national data. It was very different.
Great. Thank you. Anything else that you want to add to that?
As you look at potential edits to this legislation or think about this topic, I just want to encourage you to think about the work that's already being done by RPCs to support municipalities to put together their energy plans in their town plans, because we're already working to collect a lot of this data and provide it for municipalities and then help them set targets, to help them formulate actions to decrease emissions, decrease energy use. And I would really encourage that this new program that the state is going to embark in, that it be done in coordination with the work that's already being done, so that there aren't like parallel processes that aren't speaking to each other.
Yes, go ahead.
Thank you for your testimony. So are you confident with the data that you're getting in order to calculate emissions? Sounds like you're getting some data from the state. And then you're getting data from like national data that you think is not as relevant, but you're getting some data from the state, and where are you getting the rest of the data?
So the transportation data we're pretty confident with it because it comes from registration information from the Department of Motor Vehicles, and we're able to use that information to calculate vehicle miles traveled for light duty vehicles. And then we have to use a formula to estimate for heavy duty commercial vehicles. So that, I think, is pretty good, and it's better than using the sort of national average data. For heating, for delivered fuels for heating buildings, if a municipality is in VGS territory, we can calculate it very accurately because VGS shares that information. If it's a combination of VGS and other delivered fuels, or it's just other delivered fuels, then we are, again, just guessing.
Okay, so for the VGS stuff, and you're Chittenden County, so much of your territory is in VGS territory, correct?
That's correct. We do have several municipalities that are like a portion has VGS, but not all.
Okay, so if they're delivered fuel, that's where it's harder for you to get the data.
Yes.
Okay.
In fact, we don't get the data.
You don't have any
other
data.
than VGS.
Right. And if I can ask some further questions there. So VGS is voluntarily giving you this data at this point. Is that accurate?
That's accurate.
So if they had some like they're under no obligation to share that data with you.
That's correct.
And so they could at some point just say, sorry, that's proprietary, or that's something that we no longer, we're working against our own interests, let's say. So that they might pull back on that.
I suppose if their management changed, that could occur.
Right, and so, and at that point, so you're not relying on national data at this point?
No.
You are, like you mentioned, the American Community Survey, which is quite, there's a lot of estimates.
It's a large margin for error So like in a municipality like Huntington, which is in Chittenden County, they don't have any natural gas service. So that's a complete estimate using the American Community Survey data.
Okay, so for Huntington's kind of a black box for you.
Exactly.
Yeah, okay. And so are you also suggesting that, that this, well, actually, so I want to back up. If the state were to collect this data, would you all be apt to use that data instead?
Most definitely. Yeah, in the next round of regional planning, we would incorporate it. And then, you know, use it for each municipality that's updating their enhanced energy plan.
Mm-hmm. And so, is it also fair to say then that like this, if this bill goes through, that would make that aspect of your work easier?
Yes, and just a whole lot more accurate. We get a lot of confusion by municipalities when we give them the data and they see these wide margins of error and they're like, why did you even give this to us? So there's a like, why are we spending money on having you do something that isn't really having a result?
Got you. Okay, so you feel like the data collection from this bill would be more accurate and would be clearer to communities and would be, it sounds like more helpful, but I don't want to put words in your mouth.
Oh, it would be a lot more helpful. I mean, for example, because we had the VGS data for South Burlington and we did their baseline emissions inventory in 2019, and then we did the update in 2023, we were able to see specifically that commercial building emissions had gone down. And that building emissions overall had gone down by 11%. So that tells us that the incentives, that the VGS efficiency utility work or other factors are coming into play and reducing building emissions. The thing about South Burlington is they're definitely increasing their development. So even as development increases, their building emissions have gone down.
Not even on like a per building basis, just straight totals.
Straight totals.
Wow.
But that helps you to really understand where to put your policy efforts. So for transportation, it actually went up by 1%. And there are more vehicle miles traveled in South Burlington in 2023 than there were in 2019. So it really should have gone up a lot more. But what we determined was that it's the amount of EVs and the higher efficiency of gas vehicles that caused the muted increase in emissions. Because we were able to put those factors into the ClearPath tool, the efficiency standards. So the federal government had, I don't know if they have or they've been talking about rolling back those efficiency standards.
Right.
That tells you something that you can actually start to formulate policy around.
Yeah. Well, I have one more question, then I think there's another question in the room, but what's the margin of error for the transportation sustainability tool that you were using?
Well, for the what you would call like residential vehicle miles traveled or light duty emissions, I think that it's a very low margin of error. The UVM Transportation Research Center really goes through the data and cleans it up. and ensures it's as accurate as possible. For the heavy duty commercial vehicles, it's probably a much larger margin for error. We had to make a lot of assumptions, and we got as technical as we could between diesel and non-diesel and medium to heavy duty, figuring out vehicle miles traveled, but it was a bit more of an estimate.
Okay. It's already good.
Yeah, thanks, Anna. I'm sorry that we're making you talk, you obviously have a cold, so I'm sorry about that, but, what are these energy plans used for besides calculating emissions? Is there a financial, like cost savings analysis about if we reduce the use of natural gas in buildings in South Burlington, it saves the community this much money? Is there some aspect to the plan for that?
So the primary purpose for enhanced energy planning is to calculate how much energy use a municipality, this is a big overview, how much energy they're utilizing, and then figure out their portion of renewable energy generation that should be sited in that municipality. That's the main purpose. But there's a full picture that comes with the enhanced energy planning that includes heating and transportation. And then what it enables municipalities to do is to do better planning, number one, and to think about policies that they themselves could put together at the municipal level to work on helping to meet the state's climate and energy goals.
Yeah, I totally get that. I'm just wondering if there's a financial component to it. Do you do the calculation of if you're reducing your use of fossil fuels, you're also reducing the cost of running heating your buildings or running your city?
I mean, it isn't that isn't guaranteed part of an enhanced energy plan, but often it's mentioned that certain energy costs are burdensome to certain populations, and that it's important as municipalities are working on actions to consider those populations and how to ease their pain.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you so much for your testimony, Ms. Janda. I hope you feel better.
You're welcome. Thank you for having me.
Yeah, all right, we'll move over to Mr. Faulkner from the Two Rivers Ottaquechee Regional Commission. Welcome. And if you could
Good morning.
Your role is also.
Yes, thank you very much for having me and inviting Two Rivers to testify as well. So, yes, my name is Harry Falconer. I serve in a role called the Shared Energy Coordinator Program here at Two Rivers. It's kind of a unique shared services program that we offer here, where a consortium of 7 of our member towns contract with us for my services and really helping them with a broad mandate of anything related to energy efficiency, electrification, or greenhouse gas reduction projects. And what that usually manifests as in practice is grant writing and project management. But I also work very closely with the Municipal Energy Resilience Program outside of my work as the Shared Energy Coordinator, and over the past year and a half, 2 years, working very closely with my colleagues Brian Kovalik and Kevin Geiger here at Two Rivers to work on our update to our enhanced energy plan, which was approved by PSD back in June of this past year. So my experience is less, I suppose, in direct planning rather than project management and grant writing, as I said. But the desire to have more hard data and to closely track emissions and energy use at the local level is definitely something that I hear frequently from town energy committees and often select boards as well. Obviously, we have these state level goals, but some of our municipalities also have, resolutions that they've adopted through town meeting or as select boards to reduce emissions at the local level as well, and to increase energy efficiency. And they would like to be able to measure progress towards that in a more concrete way that I think this bill would potentially provide. And I would echo everything that Ann said, really. Obviously, in our region, which is, sort of the upper valley of Vermont, our largest town being Hartford, we do not have utility gas service. So our data is pretty much entirely derived for our enhanced energy planning from PSD's analysis tools, which are, they provide modeled numbers based on some concrete data, some American Community Survey data, as Ann mentioned, and some, vehicle registrations from the state DMV and things like that. But they are ultimately modeled figures based on assumptions and educated guesses in some cases. So um, we would certainly welcome if the bill passes, having regional and local level hard data to work with in these planning processes. So.
That's very helpful. Thank you. So thinking about the benefits that we heard from Ms. Janda about being able to evaluate the effectiveness of programs and see what's happening. Right now, I mean, you all are going off of modeled data. So it seems like there's a sort of, I'm not sure what the right word is, an evaluation of policies that's not able to, I'm guessing that it's not effectively able to happen because you don't have hard data to work.
Yes, at the local level, it's very difficult to track progress over time, and at the regional level as well, because that is essentially not what the model is providing. The model is providing a snapshot in time based on today's assumptions and today's data, and there are obviously statutory requirements for how often we update our enhanced energy plan and how often the state revisits the comprehensive energy plan and the climate action plan as well. So there are periodic updates of this, and as Ann mentioned, our towns are kind of confused and frustrated sometimes why we are not tracking hard numbers over time due to this lack of underlying good data in that sector. And it's difficult to explain that to them, that the model is not really providing us really able to provide like a longitudinal sense of their improvement and their progress towards the goals that were set in the previous plan.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's true for both the thermal and transportation sectors.
Correct. Yep.
Yeah.
I should also mention just for the sake of clarity, that in our enhanced energy plans, we're actually not providing numbers in terms of greenhouse gas emissions or kilograms of CO2 or anything like that. In the data sets that we provide to the towns and that we include in our regional enhanced energy plan, everything is in terms of energy. So it's in gallons of fuel, it's in kilowatt hours or megawatt hours of electricity, or millions of BTUs. It's not actually provided in terms of emissions. So it sounds like this bill would actually be providing that in terms of emissions and gallons of fuel as well, which would be nice to have.
Yes. Okay. Any other questions for Mr. Faulkner? Okay. Super. All right. Well, thank you so much. Really appreciate you both being able to come testify today.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, and so we actually have a little bit of time before our next person arrives. We're going to be taking up H 928, the Fish and Wildlife Technical Corrections Miscellaneous Bill. And so we're waiting for Bradley Shellman at this point. So we'll take a 5-minute break. Good.
Yes.
Goodbye. Excuse me.
Okay. Don't worry, you haven't missed a thing. All right, so this is the net resources and energy coming back from a break, and we are looking at H 928, Fish and Wildlife, technical corrections. Welcome to our legislative council, walking through the bill.
Bradley Showman, Office of Legislative Counsel, and today I'll be walking through H 28 or 928. An act related to technical corrections to the Fish and Wildlife statute. So this bill does four things. In brief, it updates the points violation on a person's hunting license if they violate the laws. Section 2 updates the timing of when a license is to be active or updates the timing of license when it will be active. Section 3 updates gives the Department of Fish and Wildlife authority to set fees for big game permits that are not authorized in the statute. And then section 4 repeals a session law provision from 1999 related to planning for champion land. So I'll go over these sections in detail, but I want to give just a little bit of framework for the point violations. So the Title 10, and if you already know this, you can feel free to stop me. But Title 10 is structured in a way such that there's Title 10 and then there's Title 10 Appendix. And Title 10A, the appendix, is updated by the Department of Fish and Wildlife by rulemaking. And Title 10A, both Title 10 and Title 10A contain violations for or regulations for hunting, fishing, trapping, or taking. And in Title 10A, as the department updates these items, the penalty provisions are in Title 10. And so the Department of Fish and Wildlife is updating Title 10A. It's changing the numbering, it's changing the content in some ways of certain hunting violations. So it needs to come back to the legislature and ask the legislature, hey, can we update these citations for one? And then two, it's also updating how the number of points and the severity of violations for some items. Now, I only have 15 minutes and this changes a lot of those violations. I won't go over those violations in detail. The department should be able to do that, and then I can also do that for you. I would just need at least a half an hour to do.
Oh, okay.
So the actual violations themselves.
Like, I would like you to go over them in detail.
Yes, I also, so
Okay,
we can have you in again.
okay, that'd be great.
Let's just take your time, tell us all about it.
Okay.
Okay.
And so how the points violations work is that here. There are 10-point violations and 20-point violations. And so if a hunter incurs a certain number of points violations within 5 years, then their license could be suspended. If you get 20 points, if you get 20 points in a 5-year period, that's a 3-year suspension on your hunting license. So some of these violations in statute here are 20-point violations. And so when you make a 20-point violation, that's a big deal because you lose your hunting license for 3 years.
I'll take fishing on.
Yes, yep. And then so basically it's 10 to 14 points in a 5-year period, you lose your license for 1 year, 15 to 19 in a 5-year period, you lose it for 2, and then 20 plus, you lose it for 3.
Well, can you say that one more time?
Yes.
Okay.
So in terms of the number of points versus the number of years that a license is suspended. So 10 to 14 points is a 1-year suspension.
And that's in 5 years?
Yes, yeah, cumulative within 5 years. 15 to 19 points within 5 years is a 2-year suspension.
Okay.
And then 20 points or more within 5 years is a 3-year suspension. Okay.
So I do have questions about that.
Yeah.
So like, let's say you got 19 points in 4 years.
Mhm.
So now you're looking at a 2-year suspension from that moment.
Yep.
And then. I guess I'm wondering if it's possible to end up like accruing more years. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Potentially, depending on how the points shake out in terms of timing.
yeah,
And so if you got like a 2-year suspension. You know, that 2 years would go, and then you got another points violation. And those points were within 5 years, it looks back, so you could potentially kind of get punished. Potentially again for the same point violations.
got you. And then in that year 5, let's say you got some more bigger violations, you're looking at another 3 years after that.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, potentially.
And you're not saying like, oh, we've already done 2 of
Right,
3 years.
Right.
Okay.
And you might hear testimony, you know, from the Department of Fish and Wildlife, you know, and about how strictly these are enforced and things, and whether people get warnings or what have you. You know, they might talk to you about the practical realities of enforcing some of these points violations and things of that sort. And that might be helpful context. And you'll have that heard, I think, tomorrow to talk about that in very Smith. And so that's kind of the context. You know, when you're looking at this bill, and let's just start walking through it. And so we can start on the notes out of here. So at the very bottom of page 1, we're looking at 10 points shall be assessed for, and then so we go on to the next page and we're looking at we're going to look at the violations. And so each of these sections, you'll see it's a section 4704. And it's been structured this way for a long time. It is a little odd how these are listed out in statute, but it's been structured this way since when the last time I looked at it, they get this far back as the 70s. Section 4704, that will refer to Title 10. And now let's look at line 6 as an example. Line 6, section GG, appendix section 44. So that's looking at the Title 10A, section 44. So if you look up at Vermont statutes online, you'll click one of our laws, you'll scroll down, you'll see a 10A section. And then so whenever, if you're looking these up yourself, just look. It says appendix 44, you're looking at Title 10A. If it just says section 4827, like it does in line 9, you're looking at Title 10. And then these particular changes, like I said, I will go over them when we get through the rest of the bill. They might be able to start us off if I have some time, but I'm happy to come back because there are a lot of different changes. Most of the point changes are just clarification, but some are going from a 20 point to a 10 point violation, and then some are going from a 10 point to a 20 point violation. It's helpful to have that context, and I'm happy to give that once you have more time. So we'll move to section 2 on page 4. And so this is after the violations. And so this section deals with how long a license is active. So under current law, all licenses expire on December 31st. And this amendment to the 10 VSA 42 would give the department discretion to say that a license could be valid for 365 days after decision, right? So the department under this bill has discretion to say all licenses expire December 31st, or they're good for 365 days. Excuse me, after they were issued, as determined by the commission.
It's like deja vu.
Yes.
365 days.
And it gives the department authority to define what that is.
Is that by class of license or by individual? Like your fishing license is good for 365 days a year, but mine is only good until December 31st.
It should be by class, it should be by the license, should not be by individual.
Okay.
Right.
They like you better.
And so let's move on to page 5, section 3. Okay, so this provision will give the Department of Fish and Wildlife discretion to add some tags. So this section starts out with on page 5, it just shows you what current law is. There's no changes here. It just shows you what current law is about how much a fishing license costs, how much a hunting license costs, how much big game license costs. You see moose, bear, and additional deer archery tags on lines 14, 15, 16. A moose license cost, moose license costs $100, bear tag costs $5, deer archery tag costs $23. You see the cost of the fees there that I included in that current law. So we move on to page 6. So I explained that and wanted to give those as examples because page 6, section O adds to this bill or this statute. If the board determines that it's necessary to issue or require additional big game tags or big game permits that are not otherwise identified in this section, the department may issue such tags and permits and may assess a provisional fee for such tags and permits at an amount equal or similar to the fee for the same big game. Right, so if they want to issue a second big tag, bear tag, they can issue a second bear tag to individuals. So right now, they're only authorized to issue one bear tag. They could issue a second bear tag, and it should be similar to or equal to the $5 fee for the bear tag that's in statute right now. And I think this is an issue that came up with turkeys. It's been a few weeks ago, so that information is already I'm pretty sure it was turkeys that it came up, and they issued second tags for the turkeys, but could not charge for it because they were permitted to charge for the fee by statute. And then this provision goes on to say the department shall seek legislative approval of the fee within 1 year of the department's assessment of the fee. And if the department fails to obtain the fee, legislative approval of the provisional fee, the fee is void. And the department cannot or shall not assess a new provisional fee for say big game tag or big game permit. So essentially, if they want to issue a second turkey tag for $23, they have to, within a year, come to legislature and say, we would like this in statute. And if the legislature says no, they wouldn't be able to do another provisional tag the next year.
So they would be able to charge that fee
Yes,
ahead of approval by the legislature. But if it doesn't get approved, then they don't get to do it again.
that is correct. That's correct.
And that's on into the future.
And that would be on into the future. Yeah, so there's no
Right,
plan. Right.
Right, it's not like, okay, in 2 years, we're gonna try again, we'll have
Right.
another provisional. Fee. Interesting,
Weird construct.
and we're talking about the tags like per person,
This would be per species.
per
big
species.
game.
Oh, I see.
Right. So it wouldn't necessarily be discretionary.
Mhm.
The department has some discretion in terms of how many tags it issues in total. And, but it wouldn't necessarily be, okay, we're gonna give a tag to this person because we like them. It's not discretionary in that, like,
Mhm.
it's like a category of these. And then the last, piece that this bill does is this is a session law provision from 1999. And the Vermont Housing Conservation Board had a land acquisition for the Champion land acquisition. And there is requirements in that session law to involve Vermont cities and municipalities in developing and updating every 10 years a long-term comprehensive plan for management of portions of land which are transferred to it. So for the departments that manage the Champion land, they had to develop and update every 10 years a long-term plan for managing that land and the portions of those lands. And the department asserted when this was on the House side that they do it every 20 years, they haven't been doing it every 10 years. And asked to take this requirement out as a matter of administrative efficiency because they were doing it every 20 years instead of 10. And the last section here is this act shall take effect on July 1st, 2026.
So they made the decision to do it every 20 years, and now they're asking to take out the requirement that they do it every 10. And that's a little.
Yeah, I have questions.
And I'm sure they'll be able to give you some more background about how that came to be and things of that sort. I'm relaying that message to you as the policy impetus for the change here.
Okay, yes, go ahead.
When you come back, or maybe they can just, I would like a little bit more information about what the champion lands are. I don't know what that is. And then in the little sections on page 7 that you included just for reference sake. I think the Vermont Housing and Conservation Board and the Agency of Natural Resources should be capitalized. So you might wanna just take the opportunity to
Okay.
clean it up, but I would defer to you, but that seems like those should be capitalized.
You're talking like page 7, line 1?
It's line 1 and line 5. And maybe champion lands, I don't know, when champions capitalized, but lands isn't, I don't know what that is, so I'm not sure if land should be capitalized too, but.
Yeah.
Well, they're not their editor
It has been.
time, so I'm surprised. I would assume those should be capitalized.
So that's interesting. I'll talk to the editors about that because they have looked through that. I haven't noticed. And but no, that is a good point, and I will take that up.
Thank you. I have many other questions, but
I do
that's
too.
just.
So, we're out of time, we'll plan to have you back, I have more questions, particularly about section 1.
Okay.
So anyway, to be continued, thank you, any other thoughts or comments for the committee? Okay.